Everyone, it's time for another review of an ITSM platform that I think you all will be interested to see uh, coming from a Cherwell background. So if you don't already know, if you haven't been watching the channel, this is actually part of a series that I'm doing. This is, I don't know, the sixth or seventh video, I think, where I'm going through all of the ITSM vendors that exhibited at Service Management World the week before Thanksgiving 2024, and kind of comparing them to Cherwell, not from the perspective of, which one is better, are they better than Cherwell? Are they less good than Cherwell? Um, but more from the perspective of if you're moving off of Cherwell, as everyone who is currently using Cherwell has to in the next 2 years, how do these ITSM platforms compare? There are 13 of them, so there will be, 13 videos plus a couple like introductory videos where I talk about the method and kind of the structure of this analysis, this report. And there's actually a companion PDF that goes along with this. I'll have links down in the description below, both to a playlist of all of these videos as well as a way to get access to that report. At time of recording, it's not out yet, but you can get on the list so that when it does get released, you'll get an email with that PDF. If you're watching this video later on, that form will turn into basically you put in your email address and you'll get emailed the PDF. Um, and in today's video, we're going to talk about ManageEngine. Um, ManageEngine specifically is well, let's just get right into it. ManageEngine is made by the company Zoho. You may have heard of Zoho before because they have lots and lots of different applications that they build. I don't know how big the company is, but their footprint is certainly huge. They have things like Zoho Books, which is a little bookkeeping suite. They have Zoho Desk, which is like a small business customer support type thing. They have Zoho CRM, which is it's a CRM for small businesses. I think they actually have another CRM that's aimed at larger businesses. Maybe I had those backwards. But Zoho is a huge company. It has lots of different products, some of which integrate together, some of which are kind of standalone products. But then ManageEngine is kind of its own division. And what ManageEngine provides is not just a service desk application, but actually a whole lot of software. It's like a whole suite. So here's actually ManageEngine's website. Um, and right on the front page, I'm pretty sure this is the home page. It's the download page, but if we go to the home page, uh, you can see they're focused on IT as a whole, and you can see they have all of these different things that they do: identity and access management, service management, which is what we're going to look at, operations, low-code app development, lots of different stuff. Um, and if we go back to this download page, you can see a little bit more detail. So they've got Active Directory management, identity governance, all of these different products that do all of these different things in IT. And I'm actually kind of curious about some of the other things that they do. So maybe those will show up in future videos, not as part of this series, not as part of this report, um, but just because they do so much, I feel like it's worth diving in and seeing what it's all about. So again, today we're looking at Service Desk Plus. Why Service Desk Plus, not just Service Desk? Not sure. Hang on, let me turn that light off so it's not flickering in the background. Um, so we're looking at Service Desk Plus today. And you can see download or sign up. So right off the bat, they're very forthcoming about their self-hosted option, um, which I haven't actually checked out. I did download it. They have a Windows version and a Linux version. I'll probably install the Linux version. I'm going to check that out, see what it's like. But just for sake of comparison, apples to apples comparisons with everything else that I'm doing, I specifically signed up for a cloud trial. So it's a 30-day trial. Um, and I've been playing around with that for a few hours. I spent a few hours today just poking around it. Um, And there are definitely some interesting things that I want to highlight in this video. So let me pull up my notes here real quick. So I mentioned that ManageEngine is a Zoho company. They have a lot of different products. One of the things that was a bit of a challenge uh, getting access to ManageEngine and playing around with it is their documentation is interesting. So uh, here's one bit of documentation. So somehow, where is this? This is manageengine.com. Yeah, it's basically the product documentation for ServiceDesk. So if you drill in to the product and resources and product documentation, you can see they have a lot of different information. Some that's general to ITSM, and then we get into specifically the help for the the product itself. Uh, but these particular links seemed very targeted towards specific use cases, specific things you might be trying to do with the product. I was able to find a more general bit of documentation. That's not it. This is the Manage Engine Pit Stop, which is their like forum, um, which is where I finally, after going through this documentation site, and again, I was able to find another documentation um, site uh, just by Googling. Um, I couldn't figure out how to get to the portal. And it turns out that there's really no difference between the portal and the technician view. It's all the same. It's the same application. And basically, the difference is what this answer says. URL to access Service Desk Plus is common to all users, technicians and requesters. So that's what they call it. Technicians are agents. Well, I guess in Cherwell you called them technicians as well. Technicians, agents, same thing. And then requesters, what in Cherwell we would call customers. If a user is added as a requester in Service Desk Plus, when that user logs in, they see the self-service portal to submit requests. And then there's, I guess, a link to the documentation. Um, and obviously that was not very clear to the person who originally asked. They were still kind of confused. Um, and there's, you know, a reinforcement of no, that I know it sounds confusing, but that is actually what you asked. So, what does that actually look like? Here's the portal. And of course, because it's one application, I have to open it up in an incognito window. And I created a separate user, a requester user, so that I could see the portal. Now, portal is actually pretty interesting because it is very customizable, and we'll see exactly what that looks like in just a minute here. Uh, but let's just go ahead and create a ticket just so you could see kind of the requester experience, and then we'll see what that looks like on the technician side as well. So I'm just going to choose default request, um, and you can see there's a very clean UI. Uh, Everything I submit is critical priority. Sure, why not? Uh, Asset isn't required, so we'll leave that. Category, I don't know. We'll pick a category. There's nothing in firewall. Hardware, is there anything in? Yeah, okay. Production servers, AIX. Sure. I didn't configure this at all. This is just kind of the base. I think when you sign up for a trial, they give you the option of installing a bunch of demo content, and I said yes, I would love demo content. Um, and so that's what I have. I am not running any AIX right now, or probably will I ever. Um, Help, the server is down, right? And of course, I'm terrible. I'm not going to give a documentation, or sorry, a description. Okay, cool. I get some suggested solutions, which is kind of their version of knowledge. That's pretty cool. Can drag and drop attachments. We'll say add request, and just like that, I have a request that I've added. I can see the details of it. Obviously, it just got submitted, so there's no additional information on it. I can see I have one pending request now on the portal. There's my pending requests. Uh, so let's actually dive into the admin side, the well, it's kind of combination technician admin side, and see where this portal is configured. So here is me logged in to the same website again as an admin user. So I can go over to setup, which gives me access to all of these settings. And it looks like a lot, and it is. There is a lot here. There's an incredible amount of customizability here. But it's broken down into fairly reasonable chunks. So let's start out with users, and I'll show you. Uh, Here are all the example users. Brian Parks, this is what I'm logged in as right now, user tech technician. On the portal, I was logged in as Brian Parks requested with my dev email address. And if we go to, where is it? Not customization. I think it's general settings, advanced portal settings. No, requester portal. Here we go. Requester portal customization. So again, there are lots of settings, and it can get kind of tricky to find the setting that you're looking for. This search and setup is very helpful because it searches pretty much everything you see here. Uh, so you can, if I even search for portal, you can see requester portal settings, requester portal customization. That's where I am now. Um, so it can really help you navigate. So requester portal customization, we have two choices here. We can do GUI based or code based. And by default, with the content that I installed, um, the portal was set to code based. So I just kept it. But you can preview it, which shows us exactly what we saw before. And this is basically what it looks like, but it is a preview. So I think if you see if you click report an issue, I think it works in preview mode, but this is not what you would actually send to uh, customers or requesters. Uh, but if we go to configure, you can actually see a bunch of different options, and we can edit them. Yeah, we get little edit buttons here for the titles. And somewhere in here, we can actually edit the HTML. Here we go. And that's kind of what was referenced when, if we keep hitting cancel, customize portal using predefined templates and themes requires minimal HTML skills. Also in here, you can see somewhere around here, I found like a list of pages. You can create widgets, you can create pages, you can use those templates, you could further customize them. So it's not quite the same as Cherwell, where it was all drag and drop, no code, but at the same time, you have a lot of control over how your portal looks. Um, or of course, you could just do GUI based and pick a pre-packaged portal look and feel. Okay, so that's kind of the good and the maybe less good or weird of the portal. So the good is it's really customizable, and the weird is that it's the same link for both the technician view and the portal view. Um, so depending on who you log in as, that's determines what you actually see once you've logged in, which is different from what a lot of other tools do. Most other tools that I found, or other platforms, I guess they really are, have set a specific site aside to be the portal. Uh, Sorry, just closing the door so that the cats don't interrupt again. A couple other things that I want to show in ManageEngine that I think are really worth highlighting. One of the things that was interesting initially was if I go into mail settings and mail server settings. So initially, it was configured to use a kind of a hosted email address. Um, and that's not uncommon. Lots of systems have, kind of provide a single email address that you can forward email to, and then it kind of ingests it into the system and does reasonable things with it. Um, and I thought, okay, that's not at all how Cherwell does things, but that might work for people. Then I realized that they do have a self-hosted version, right? You can download ManageEngine, run it on your own servers. So that must mean that there has to be a way that you can configure it to use your own mailbox, right? Because they're not going to create a hosted email address if you're self-hosting the application. That just doesn't make any sense. And sure enough, I was right. It was a little weird. I had to do a little digging through the UI. And it wasn't immediately obvious, but I am able to configure their mail monitor essentially to do an IMAP connection. Uh, they also have support for Outlook and Office 365 or Microsoft 365, I guess is what it's called now. That probably is a little bit less of a manual configuration. My dev environment or my dev mail environment specifically isn't that. It's just an IMAP server. So I went the custom route, the manual route, and set up an IMAP configuration. And then it started working. Um, One of the somewhat weird things, but also familiar things coming from a Cherwell background is this mail filter option. So this specifically determines what's included and what's excluded. Now, there are a couple odd things here. One is the way it's phrased here. Emails that match the following conditions will be blocked and no new requests will be created from these emails. I'm not sure if that's actually worded the proper way. I suspect that it's whatever condition you have down here is what emails will get turned into requests or incidents using the Cherwell terminology, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Need to do a little bit more digging. The other thing that's weird here is I'm just going to add a few because I don't need to actually fill anything out here in order to get multiple rows. If you click on this, you can switch it between and or, but I don't know what order they're evaluated in. There's no obvious grouping here, so I don't know if it's this or this and this or this, like the first two and one of the first two and one of the last two. I don't know. I might have to read the documentation to figure out what that is. But at least it does support both and or. So if you can construct a condition uh, in the right format so that it's grouped properly, you can do some really powerful things with this, right? This is everything you need to do, logical operations. So that's pretty cool. I was really pleasantly surprised when I saw this. Another thing that they have is this email commands thing. And from what I can tell, this is basically a way that you can send a specifically crafted email to set the values of a request. So basically set all of these properties. So if you have and it is ugly. This is not nearly as powerful as Cherwell's email monitor, but if you created an email like this, say from another system, another, basically machines talking to machines at this point, right? You could have one system create an email with a specific format, and ManageEngine would create a request with those specific fields set to those specific values. So you don't have to have a technician manually categorize or um, modify various fields. So I don't, is it useful? Maybe. Um, but it's at least interesting. It's something different that they have that I haven't seen in any other platform so far. So that's pretty cool. The two things that I really want to focus on, and I know this video is getting really long, but ManageEngine just has a lot of cool features. Uh, the two things that I really want to focus on are form customizations and workflows that I think ManageEngine does really well. So we're going to stay in the setup here. Um, Well, actually, let's go back to requests because I said we would look at what that request that I submitted through the portal, what that looks like on the technician side. So here's that ticket here, and we can see details. Not, I didn't provide very much in the way of details. We have a lot of different fields here, different relationships, right? Leaked requests, associated problem. Okay, all that is great. Um, we can respond. The requester, my requester account didn't provide any description, any information, so that's why that's blank here. Uh, but we have lots of different tabs here that where we can, add all sorts of good stuff. So let's look at how we can modify some of this information. So we'll go back to setup and we'll go to templates and forms. And you can see it's basically broken down by the type of thing. Some might call it, the ITIL request type or the ITIL, um, yeah, I guess ITIL request type, right? Or just from Cherwell, it's basically the business object, right? So instead of calling it a form, they call it a template. The reason they call it a template is because it's kind of the form and the specifics form all melded into one. Um, so one thing you'll notice here is that a lot of these look a lot like what we saw in the portal. So if we go back to portal, report an issue, incident templates, default request, frequent application crashes, mail fetching, printer problem. Go back here, default request, frequent application crashes, mail fetching, and printer problem is down here. Now, why only those four? Because those four are set to yes in this column, which is show to requester. So basically, that's how you indicate that those forms should be shown on a on the portal. Now, this is a little bit different from how Cherwell handled the service catalog. Right, service catalog was divided up service category subcategory, and that is a thing. Where is that? I think that's in customization. So category, we have categories, and then we have subcategories, and so on. I think I chose, what was it? Hardware, production servers, AIX. So there's my three tiers right there. That's not how the portal is set up. The portal is set up based on incident templates. We also have, I'm losing my mind. There were others in there. Problem template, change template, sure. So anyway, incident template. Let's look at default request. Here, we'll actually look at the requester view, and this form should look familiar because it's actually what we saw right here. So this is totally customizable. And when I say totally customizable, I mean totally customizable. It looks like I can't remove these fields, but pretty much every other field I can do something with. I can remove any of these fields. I can make this field bigger. I can customize this one. Um, That one has subfields, which are kind of interesting. I see other available fields. I can add them to the form here. I can add new fields and new sections. I could, divide this up into different sections. You can see these are currently untitled. Priority doesn't is in a section by itself, but doesn't have a title. Requester details does have a title. And then this is kind of, this, well, I guess this is the categorization and kind of the specifics because this template doesn't really have specifics. It's just the default request, the generic incident. Um, but if you go into, no, I don't want to save changes. Um, Discard. Okay. If we go to like printer problem, this one's probably going to have some more specific uh, information that it needs. Uh, yeah. Okay. It's got, oh, sorry, that's technician view. Requester view is actually pretty much the same. But you can see here, this is presumably where you could customize the field and make it ask specific questions depending on what particular service you're dealing with. Technician view. Obviously has a lot more detail. And this is specifically how you configure the technician view. Nothing crazy going on there. So this is nearly as customizable realistically as in Cherwell. Obviously, it's not absolutely positioned, pixel perfect, um, put everything on the screen exactly where you want it to be. But you can add fields, you can remove fields, you could reorganize them, and everything on the form is customizable. Um, so that was pretty cool. Now let's talk about workflows. So if we go down to automation, there are actually a couple different types of automation, um, all of which bear similarities to each other. But I'm specifically going to talk about what they call workflows. And I'll pull up an example workflow that they have specified. Incident doesn't have anything, but service request does have an example workflow called employee onboarding. And this should seem sort of familiar. It's a visual designer, just like the one-step editor. Um, and in some ways, I think it's better. In some ways, I think it's a little bit weird, like because every line is straight. Sometimes they overlap. I think that's just the way this particular one was laid out. There's obviously nothing stopping you from laying it out differently so that it's more clear where the different lines go. But you have things like dates. And this is actually, you can kind of think of this as like zoomed out from where one steps are, right? One steps are very, um, when a trigger occurs, when the one step is triggered, these are the actions that it will do, and it does them in sequence. Um, and there really isn't much waiting between different one step uh, steps. Yes, it might wait to send an email, like it wants to finish sending an email before the next thing happens. There might be a prompt where it waits for user input, but it's not something where it's going to wait for a specific period of time for a while. That's something that you might see in automated processes. Um, but even still, most automated processes are are a little more self-contained, a little more moment in time snapshot. Whereas workflows in both ManageEngine and I think I mentioned workflows with Invigate as well, both of those take a little bit more of a zoomed out approach, and they're defined from the perspective of uh, from the beginning of a ticket's lifetime all the way to ideally resolution, but as far as it can automate. So here we have the start. It goes into the open state. Then we determine where to go next based on this particular condition, which if we edit it, we can see exactly what it is. Is this field employee type? Is it empty? Right? Makes sense. If yes, we this says send a reminder to fill employee type in. Basically, we wait to get some more information. If no, we can continue on. Is the employee permanent? If yes, we do some other stuff. If no, we do different stuff. And you can see based on like the result of a particular um, action, whether it was successful, unsuccessful, approved, rejected, completed, overdue, is success, failure, completed, failed. It can take different branches, which is pretty cool, which is something that I believe Invigate also had, but Cherwell didn't really have that. It was just every step went to one other step, unless it was a decide between multiple cases, or in some cases you would have a condition on a particular step, which was basically, do I run this particular step or not? Right. So uh, a little bit more flexibility potentially than what's in Cherwell. Uh, and eventually you get all the way to closed and the end, and it looks like the canvas is glitching out on me. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty cool. This kind of splits things into like parallel tasks, which is pretty cool. So it waits for these specific tasks to be marked as completed, and when they're all completed, um, then it continues on to the next phase. Again, all that's pretty cool. And they're broken up into these different types of what they call nodes, which is from the one-step background, we call them actions or sub steps, one step sub actions, I think they were called. Um, but again, because we're zoomed out a little bit further, we have to have support for things like statuses, right? What status is this particular ticket or request in? We have condition nodes, which is branch between multiple cases, that sort of thing, and branch nodes, which is this fork and join, basically do some things in parallel. Again, because we're talking about the entire workflow, not just a specific piece of process automation. Uh, and then the actual work that gets done. So we can call off to a webhook, we can run a custom function, we can, which I don't think there are any here. Um, I might be able to drag one on. Yeah, okay. I just dragged one onto the canvas, and it looks like JavaScript. Well, not exactly. It's some sort of actual programming language. I didn't get too far into this because I didn't want to spend quite that much time on it. Um, but you can basically create custom code that does whatever you need it to, um, and that will get run at that particular step. Um, a timer. So after like this one, after a specific amount of time, it either gets aborted or something has happened. Um, Approval. So support for specifically for approvals. Notification, so send an email and I think wait for a response, create a task, right? And then wait for that task to be checked off and completed, update some fields. Um, so realistically, I mean, that's 7 different types of functionality, some of which are pretty flexible. Most of them are kind of very system oriented, right? Approvals are, leveraging another piece of the system, sending a notification, updating a field, creating a task, right? That's all parts of the system. If you want to do more custom stuff, you're into custom code. So it's not quite as flexible as a one step would be. If you wanted to call off to a another API, well, now you're writing custom code, right? Whereas with Cherwell, you had a specific one step sub action that could do that. So better in some ways, not as good in others. But on the whole, like this is pretty compelling. I was impressed when I saw this. I was really excited when I saw this. Um, and with that, let me just check my notes real quick, just to make sure that those are all the things that I wanted to highlight. But I think that's everything. We're 30 minutes in, and uh, so I hope that's everything. I could go on for much longer. There was a lot of cool stuff that I found in here, um, and I spent a lot of time, well, a couple hours digging around and playing around with this. So that's ManageEngine. Um, if you have questions about ManageEngine, uh, ServiceDesk Plus specifically, uh, any questions that I can't answer, I'll find people who can. But you're welcome to leave those questions down in the description below. Again, if you want access to the full report, there's a link in the description. Um, I think I misspoke. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, but there's a link in the description to the report, to the whole playlist of all of the different reviews of the various pieces of software that I'm doing these reviews on. Um, if you have questions about the stuff that we're doing here at Setting Up Software, you can always join our Cortex users group. Surprise, our product is called Cortex. But there's links down below to that as well. If you want to schedule some time with me, there's links down in the description below to do that. Um, and I hope to have some more of these reviews, some more of these analyses, demos up here shortly. Realistically, the holdup has just been that not everyone has a free trial available, or it's not as easy as just typing in an email address, clicking a button, and boom, you have access to it. Um, ManageEngine actually was one, so you can go sign up for the free trial right now, and it's 30 days. You might have seen on the screen that I have 25 days left, so it's been a few days before I've been able to get into ManageEngine and play around with it, um, because I've been scheduling some of the other trials and getting those demo environments spun up. So there will be a whole slew of videos coming out over the next week on at least a few, at least a few different platforms. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you found this interesting. And yeah, happy exploring of ITSM platforms. I'm having fun doing it, so hopefully you are as well. And hopefully this was useful in your evaluation of what platform you're going to next after moving off of Cherwell. Thanks for watching. See you later.